everyone, this is your OG, and this is another Godforge video. Today we're going to be breaking down level 60 Golden Guardian and giving it to you in a OSMIAC U.S. Marine Corps style briefing as though you were going out on a mission. So I thought that would just make it a fun way to sort of broach that subject and a cool format for providing it to you. I think you're going to find there's a lot we can learn on the level 60 Golden Guardian, and I know he stopped me up at first, and it definitely took some work to get by him, so we're going to help you with some ideas, and we're also going to talk about what we're going to be testing out in Wave 2, which starts this coming Wednesday. So giving you a little sneak peek on the testing that I'm going to be doing, EuroG, and trying to figure out teams that can get past the Golden Guardian for you and exactly what you need to defeat all of the mechanics. So without further ado, let's optimize. Hey guys. We are here and we are going to be talking through the Golden Guardian briefing, all right? So this is a warning order. Your OG has conducted extensive reconnaissance and will be briefing your team for their next mission in 15 mics. Orientation. First, we have to recap the first 59 levels that we went through. So we have our first 60 levels here. You see us arriving at level 60 and the Golden Guardian, and this is basically where we're fast forwarding you to. So you've worked your way all the way here and you're trying to beat level 60 to keep going. The difficulty is that you're going to face a pretty tough challenge. So we've recapped the first 59 levels. We have arrived at a cave and a golden giant guards a treasure we require to advance. Here's our golden giant. We're looking for our team. Who can get us by this team? As you can see, while I was going through it, I had Gilgamesh, which I was very fortunate to pick up in the first 30 levels. I had Achilles that I got as my epic at level 10. I had Dagonet for defense down, and I had Aphrodite, who I got at level 30 for beating Fafnir the first time. So I am not saying you need this team to do it. This was just, I was sort of letting the game lead me, and this is what I got, and so I worked with what I thought what the best characters or heroes I had, I worked with that. But let's say we were deliberately trying to build a different team. That's what we're going to cover today. All right, so here we go. Let us give you this briefing. We're going to start with the orientation. So this is the Golden Guardian. He has a bounty counter in his upper corner. The higher the bounty, the higher the gold coin your mount you receive. Higher command expects us to deliver the necessary resources within a single well-coordinated attack, and that also brings in a 5th team member into our tier 1 fire team. Okay, so let's get you all oriented to the battle as we are expecting to be breaking down our enemy in a very comprehensive way that drives our decision making when we're in the heat of combat. All right, so situation. We start with the acronym SALUTE, or size, activity, location, unit, time, and equipment. This is what you use to describe the enemy forces that you're looking at. So in the first wave, wave 1, we are coming up on a 5-team wave led by Isolde, Green Knight, Smash, Gilgamesh, and Enoch Son of Moon. Okay, so this is I show their affinities. You see green for Isolde, a cunning, and then you see a eternal for Green Knight and for Gilgamesh, and then Smash has strength affinity, and Enoch Son of Moon is a wisdom affinity. So that's important to note. But here, so that's the size is 5 enemies, activity, they're awaiting battle, location, level 60, wave 1. They're showing their unit or affinity, the time, anywhere, anytime. Once you beat level 59, they're just waiting for you. And now we get into their equipment and abilities. Well, we're looking at the enemy's center of gravity here after we've gone through each of their hero kits. And it looks like their center of gravity, or the place that this wave generates their strength, is in Shamash's passive revive capability. If I am to take out any of the other 4 except for Shamash in one shot, he will immediately revive them. He'll put radiance on them, which reflects damage, and all of a sudden you get down a spiral that you don't want to be on. So What we've determined is the enemy's critical vulnerability in this wave is that they are slower than our team, allowing us to mass forces and attack a single point with a high amount of damage and hopefully potentially remove a team member that will disrupt the cohesion of their team. So as we've seen, the enemy center of gravity we've determined is Shamash's passive revive capability. So therefore, our main point of effort in our preliminary planning, we decide what our point of effort, main of effort is, and we're going to say that we are going to make our point of main effort Shamash. If we can take him out in one shot, we can pretty well survive. Isolde putting a defense up, a Noxana Moon, I believe she does some turn meter and some divinity add or something like that, and then obviously we could be taunted by Green Knight or hit pretty hard by Gilgamesh, but if we don't get rid of Shamash, it's a very difficult wave. So that is your center of gravity, is that Shamash's passive revive capability is just awesome, and so you need to take him out first. So that's wave 1. So we are looking to take out Shamash. I got only half of his and look, we didn't have our team fast enough. 2 of our team members were slower than Isolde, but we still managed to take out Shamash. And from there, we just weathered the storm against Gilgamesh and against Green Knight and tried to take out their damage capabilities before they took us out. We were pretty solid, pretty tanky, I would say, on this one. And then we reached the second wave, okay? So our salute, another 5 enemy wave. They're also awaiting battle. That's their activity. Location, level 60, wave 2. Their affinity, you have Ramses as a strength or red affinity. Leonidas is a strength or red affinity. Tut is a green or cunning affinity. Hippolyta and Isolde are also green or cunning affinities. So their time, anywhere, any place, after you beat the wave 1, you get to them. Looking at their equipment and abilities, Leonidas puts defense down. Ramses puts the acid on us. We don't want that. Tut can hit pretty hard. Hippolyta has a joint attack on her ultimate. And Isolde, as we know, can buff up and be quick to get those defense buffs up and make it harder to take them out. Okay, so I've determined that the enemy center of gravity here, the place in which they can derive the most strength, is in Hippolyta's joint attack on our ultimate. So, and their critical vulnerability is, again, that they're slower than our team. So it gives us first attack and the ability to choose and take out potentially one or more of the members of the enemy wave. And then they have to sort of be able to do what they're trying to do without that team member. Our preliminary plan for this one, deciding our main point of main effort, we want to take out Isolde because she is the fastest, and you can see Dagonet and Aphrodite are the only 2 that are faster than Isolde. But Achilles is faster than Ramses. So I looked at the turn meter and I said, in this one, we want to take out Isolde first and keep her from putting that defensive buff up. That is our first point of effort, and then from there we will flow to taking out Hippolyta, so that she doesn't have any chance to bring an ally attack and allow these individual damage dealers who aren't going to take us out by themselves, but in an ally attack we could sustain enough damage to lose a team member and it could ruin the run. So this was our initial plan of effort. I also realized that we had an AoE attack, I think, from Lady Zoc, and that wound up being the right way to go. Was the AoE took out everyone in one shot. So they don't have such high defense. If you can go first, have enough speed to be ahead of them, then you can see how this would get you onto the next wave. Then you see this Golden Guardian, my friend. He is a pretty cool looking boss, I think. His armor, everything, the way he moved, I thought it looked really cool. I thought it was well done. I liked the design. I liked the theme. I liked the style. I thought Fateless did really well on the bosses. So that bodes well for the rest of the game and all the other bosses. I'm sure they rolled out what they could, but not the best that they have, because they want to save that for the actual launch and stuff. But these were great bosses in and of themselves. So here we are at the third wave, which is the Golden Guardian. So we're going to do our salute again. Size, huge. Activity, fire breathing, like just going crazy. Location, level 60. Unit, he's a boss. Time, anytime, anywhere. And let's look at his equipment. So for this, we are going to jump over real quick to our friends at Scrolls of Anubis. Nicholas, great guy from Scrolls of Anubis, part of the cluster we had going and we'll have going again in Wave 2. So does a great job here on his site with both Golden Guardian and Fafnir. So we're going to use his site to kind of walk through the Golden Guardian's kit, okay, so that we can learn about it. Worse than any other dragon, Midas's obsession with gold gave rise to a monstrosity like no other, the Golden Guardian. This towering golem, forged from molten gold and powered by ancient alchemy, isn't just a dazzling spectacle, it's a relentless sentinel. With flawless precision and a heart of gold, as the treasure it protects, the Golden Guardian stands watch over Midas's legendary hoard. Greedy adventurers beware, not all that glitters wants to stay buried. This boss was built to crush intruders and keep the vault sealed forever. But you need gold, and I'm here to help you get it. In this guide, I'll reveal everything you need to defeat the Golden Guardian and claim the riches it guards. So, we're going to follow along. Here is the basic skill for the Golden Guardian. Okay, it's called Midas's Touch. He attacks all of your team. He places attack down 3, which is the highest. That's 60% attack down. That's very high on your slayers and your brawlers. He places 60% defensive down on your defenders and your invokers. So if you just try to bill him with high defense to survive, he's going to go right through that. He places accuracy downs on disruptors, so making it even harder for you to land bleeds and to land, not that you want to be landing disables, but any other debuffs that you have. We'll get into that. He reduces the turn meter of the enemy with the highest turn meter equal to the current divinity he has. So you want to keep his divinity down. That's the basis for what we will say about this one is also... if the target's turn meter is fully depleted, then it places initiative down 3 on all enemies for 2 turns, and he gains 20 divinity for every enemy that happens to. Okay, so let's reverse engineer. We do not want him to gain 20 divinity by putting initiative down 3 on us. Right? Of course, we don't want that heavy, crazy buff on us. For that to be the case, we need high enough turn meter so that he doesn't fully deplete our turn meter, or we need his divinity low enough so that because it's depleting our turn meter by how much divinity he has. So we want to keep his divinity down, and we also want to have our turn meter high. What does it mean to have our turn meter high? It means having high speed on at least one hero to be out in front. Okay? So that, we'll talk about that. For me, that was like a Dagonet to be defense down, but I didn't really have any understanding of what I was doing with the boss right away. I was just taking the team I had and trying to continue to progress. Like, that was it. And I wasn't trying to game it or, like, look for strategies. I just wanted to let the game take me and see if I could, with just the general progression of things, without trying to max or do crazy things, like, could I just continue to progress? Would it allow me to? Where would it stop me? I just wanted to be very much more passive about how I played the first wave. Second wave, we're going to be trying to test a lot of stuff. And then third wave, we could try to optimize and go crazy and do the fastest runs and all this other stuff. But it's not that important. I know, like, for my ego, that would be awesome. You know, hey, look at me, I'm so great. But really, we got to always remember this is testing. This is testing for fateless. So, like, if we're doing that and we're only focused on it making us look good, then we might be neglecting the testing we should be doing for them, which is, hey, let's try out this, let's try out that. Let's just, even though it's not going to put me in the top of the leaderboard, let me see if I can, you know, beat this with that. Or will this dynamic actually work? Is it strong enough just even though they're uncommons? Like, can it still work if you build them? And that obviously is not the most efficient or optimal way to go after a wave, but it's great when you're in testing to get into all those peripheral things that, you know, give you more information as you're honing the game in, rather than just one core path through the game and everybody's walked that. It's good to let people get outside of it and reward that too. Like, you know, hey, so-and-so found that this works, you know, that's cool. I don't know. I just think there's other things besides just being first to the top. I know a mountain kind of makes you think, all right, I got to get to the top of it first. But in the testing phases, I kind of feel like that's almost neglecting our responsibility to go slow, capture stuff, trying things that are dumb just to see what happens. Like, I mean, I wasted so much stuff in the first wave just trying stuff out, just seeing if it worked. Did this, do that. And, you know, I think that should be the way you approach a testing phase. But, you know, of course, we want to also be great and have everyone think we're awesome and know more than everyone else. But at the end of the day, like, we got to remember this is still the second testing wave. We're here to provide good feedback to Fateless. So my goal is, again, not going to be to race to the top and plant the flag first and say, look at me, I'm here. Won't be my strategy again. You know, last time it was get to 100 and turn back and then focus. I just wanted to get to triple digits and then be able, if I could do it, I wanted to see see if I could go with the team I had, and you know, we had 150 or 160, I think, when not even a 60. I don't even think I had gotten Gilgamesh to 60 when we got over 100. So I wanted to see if I could just do it, giving what the game gave me, and I was able to. So I let that go, like I let that lead me, if you will. And we're going to be doing a similar sense of that this time as well. But I'm going to try some other teams. And so in this video, you're going to see one of those teams I'm going to try. But let's finish breaking down Golden Guardian in our briefing. So here, you definitely want to have someone with a high turn meter, which means high speed, so that you don't have this initiative down. You also are wanting to look at res so that you can block any of these, because if my Golden Guardian is landing them on you, you are going to quickly get into very big trouble. So having some res built in as even just substats could be really powerful as well. Okay, his core ability, Shower of Gold, attacks all enemies, another AoE. It places stun on your defenders, brawlers, and invokers. Okay, and then it places speed down 3 on slayers and disruptors. So you want to be more on the slayers and disruptors side if you can be, and if you're using a defender, a brawler, or an invoker, you want to have enough res to be able to block this, because it can be very, very disruptive to your flow of things. So res is kind of like a little bit of a secret ingredient here, but you got to be able to build it in with the other pieces you need, and that can be tricky because you don't always get the best gear in the first 60 levels. And so you're going to be wanting to look for tier 3 gear and higher. Tier 1, tier 2 is kind of like, it doesn't even scroll up that, high enough to really make it super worthwhile. Of course, in the beginning, you want to go stats over sets and all that, but at the same point, tier 2, tier 1 gear is not giving you the stats you really need. So you want to look for at least tier 3, 4, and 5. You may not see 4 and 5 right away. Maybe you get lucky. Maybe it has terrible stats and substats on it. So you're always making compromises. And you're trying to get a little bit of res so that you can block a lot of these debuffs, which really drive the Golden Guardian's efficiency. And we'll get to that when we get to his center of gravity and critical vulnerability. Okay, so that, so if he places stun, it increases divinity. If he places speed down, it increases divinity, but less. So we want to potentially have more slayers and disruptors if we can, because that will put either speed down 3, which will only it'll give him less divinity. So we're always trying to keep his divinity down and keep our speed and turn meter and divinity up, as you can see. His ultimate attacks all enemies 3 times, and if his HP is above 1%, which you'll see that he stops at 1%, so like it will be... if it's above 1%, so if he has more than just that 1% left, then he defeats everyone. He just wipes out your team. So what you have to do is you have to beat down his HP before he gets his ultimate. If you don't, you're going to die. No amount of ward, block damage, barrier, nothing works. He'll slice right through you. And it was kind of tricky. I didn't understand this at first until I really read into his kit and understood it. So you need to bring his HP from 100 down to 1%. You won't be able to get it to go to 0, but you need to get it to 1%. Then he uses his ultimate. That doesn't kill everybody because he has only 1%. And that, in turn, he basically dies. Once you've used it at 1%, then he dies. So, especially if you have a bleed on him or anything, it just kills that last 1%. Okay. So, and if there's at least one enemy remaining, he will be destroyed. So you just got to keep one alive, one high HP. For me, it was Aphrodite who stayed alive. And I didn't realize I needed to build HP, but she did have a little HP and a little res on her just to keep her tanky because she was an invoker. And that's how I managed to do it. So I'm just giving you this. I didn't do it perfect the first time, but I'm going to try to give you the information so that as you come up on it, it doesn't stop you. If this is your first wave, if wave 2 is your first time in the game, you're going to hit 60. It's going to be hard. 50 is hard too with ISIS, but 60 is a real challenge. Makes you push back and farm and do some stuff like it should. Anyways, let's keep going. So his passives. Every time the Guardian receives damage, his divinity meter goes up by 10. Okay? So when you hit him, his divinity goes up. Therefore, when you hit him, you have to have some kind of divinity steal to offset that. He's only gaining 10 divinity, so it's not a massive amount. Ami-no-no weapons do that, but you're not going to have them at this stage. At least I don't believe so, because that Ami-no-no weapon comes in much later. That the stage where you have a 10% chance to farm it is after 60. So unless you're coming back to farm 60, that's not really a viable option for your first time through. We'll talk about some weapons that you can use and all that, but let's finish here with this passive. Each time he receives damage, his divinity goes up by 10, and it occurs once per ability. So all you have to do is be able to take away enough divinity to offset that. And we'll look at some of the heroes and some of the ways we're going to try to do that. Because as he gains divinity at 30%, he now ignores 30% of your defense. So he's hitting much harder, hitting right through any defense you're setting up to stop him. And at 60, it increases his damage by 50%, and now he starts to really clap, and you typically don't have enough HP unless you've just tried to build everyone tanky with nothing else. But you'll see you need some accuracy, you need some speed, you need some initiative in this build. You also want to have a little attack. Maybe you don't need a ton. We'll see if you can get the bleeds on properly, but or the drain or acid or whatever you... I prefer bleeds because they stack, but we'll see as we build in after we get through his kit. Okay, passive, Horde of Midas, at the start of the round activates this bounty counter. Every damaging hit you do on him increases the bounty by 1. If you're under Vanish, 2. So it's better to be under Vanish. Enemies under Speed down or Initiative down don't increase the bounty. They don't count. Okay, so we don't want debuffs on us. We've mentioned that with a little bit of res, just enough res in our substats to keep these debuffs from landing on us. He reduces the bounty by 2 for every 1% turn meter reduced. So it's tricky. You kind of got to be careful if you're trying to farm this for gold using turn meter reduction. But if you're just trying to get by it for the first time, turn meter reduction is not a bad way to go, because you keep him from getting through his turns. You give yourself more chances to take down his divinity if you don't have that weapon that takes down 5% at a time, or you don't have the kind of epic and legendary heroes that take down initiative or anything like that, because it's truly you're at level 60 for the first time. So we'll get into it, but just a note there that if you're trying to farm this for gold, which is not the same goal you have, or mission I should say you have, when you're first trying to just get through it and keep it from stopping you from progressing, if you're on that first time through, turn meter is your friend and you want to use it, you may not come away with as much gold, but you're going to want to use that to help you overcome the divinity gains as you hit him. Okay, so another passive. He reduces incoming damage by 100% when his HP falls below 1%. So that's what I mean by he stops at 1%. He doesn't take any more damage, but you got to get him there before he uses his ultimate, or he kills all of you, goes right through anything you have to stop that. When he receives a disable, he removes it and increases his divinity by 30. Note to self, no disables. No disables. Don't bring anybody that brings a petrify, a stun, none of that. It's bad. It's bad juju, as we used to say in the Marines, for going up against him, because you're going to be driving his divinity up to get that ultimate that kills everyone. So you don't want to do that. Another passive. He's got a few passives. Immunity to increase or decrease divinity cost abilities. Okay, so you can't permanently decrease his divinity cost or increase his divinity cost permanently. There were some heroes that had that feature, so not going to be able to use them. No lock debuffs, no lock ultimate, no lock core, no lock passive will work on him. Okay, don't bring any heroes in that use those things. So we're looking for those kits and kind of excluding them from our pool. Another passive, Mythic Resilience, reduces incoming damage from acid, blaze, and bleed by 75%. What does that tell me when I read that? It tells me use acid, blaze, or bleed, because they're really effective and they had to cut down their damage by 75%. That's what I read, okay? Maybe I'm just like a bad kid and I always look for trouble, but when I read that, I go, that must be what they don't want me to use, right? So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to use bleed for damage, because every time the bleed procs or the acid procs or the blaze procs, it's going to count as a damaging hit. It's going to up the bounty, and then I've just got to make sure that I am able to kill down his HP fast enough before he gets enough divinity to use his ultimate and kill me. It's really a race between him and I. Okay, last one, Frenzied. Damage increases by 5% for each ultimate cast. I don't know if that's his ultimates plus our ultimates, or just our ultimates, but I took it to mean try to use as few ultimates as possible when defeating him. That's what I feel like was my takeaway. Use the least number of ultimates as possible. Okay, so the enemy Golden Guardian's most likely course of action, MLCOA is what we call it in the military. My MLCOA, or the enemy's most likely course of action, is that Golden Guardian will place debuffs and disables, or in this case debuffs, that will help him gain divinity towards his ultimate. That's his most likely course of action. His most dangerous course of action is that he will use his ultimate, and that nukes everyone, kills everybody if he has more than 1 HP. So basically, he's going to try to put debuffs on, gain divinity, use his nuke, wipe you out. Okay? That's his most likely course of action and his most dangerous course of action. So his center of gravity, the enemy's center of gravity, is his ultimate ability nuke. Clearly. That is the thing that gives him his power, he derives everything from it. His critical vulnerability is that you can defeat 99% of his HP before he gets his ultimate, use no disables, low ultimates, have vanish on you, offset divinity gain when attacking with divinity stealing effects, and we'll talk about possibly Scotty, maybe her imprint, or Scotty herself. Freeze helps with that a little bit. We will talk about that as we get into building our team. The preliminary plan. Okay, so we're going to follow this. We're going to look at this strategy right here that Nicholas has on Scrolls of Anubis. Lower his divinity buildup with initiative down, especially before the 30 and 60% thresholds, right? There you go. We agree. Absolutely. We got to keep driving his divinity down through initiative down or other means. And then you see steal his divinity with skills, weapons, and passives. So weapons, that's that Ami no. Weapon that steals divinity. There are passives, there are skills that other heroes have. We'll talk about that. Apply speed down to slow his turn cycles. So we'll talk about who we're looking at for that. Ally attack with Ame no Nuoko. Weapon, again, you won't have that if you're just getting to level 60 unless you get incredibly lucky. And then even then, you'll only probably have 1 copy of it, and you need 6 to fully max it. So it would be amazing if you got it, but it doesn't drop as a weapons drop until like almost 70 or 80, like somewhere 70s, 80s, 90s or something like that, or even over 100. I'm not sure. I think I have it. I have it here. I don't know if I want to. Let me look. Where did the Ami no weapon drop for us? We got Ami no. At 120. When we beat Golden Guardian at 120, that was our reward, was the Ami no weapon. So I don't expect you to have it at level 60 unless you get a fluke. I don't expect you to have more than 1 of them. So you're not going to really have that, and that's a key component to really maximizing the Golden Guardian strategy, but more so when you're going and farming later at 120, or you don't really farm at 60 once you're up over 120. 120 is just a great one to farm at, but again, you won't necessarily have that. We'll talk about some replacement options for that. Include strong buffs and debuffs to suppress his damage. I also think that res is a sort of included in that so that you don't take the debuffs. And then enemy max HP skills, and we're going to talk about that. So he talks here about divinity control, slow divinity accumulation for the boss, and tank through using DPS executing the kill. He uses Beowulf for his max. He has a 30% more against bosses type feature. He's definitely a boss hitter. Hound of Duat is a great one, but is an epic. So these two are both epics. And Hound of Duat steals divinity on this basic. But again, I don't think you're going to have Beowulf and Hound of Duat on your first time through level 60. So you're going to see my team's a little less impressive. Anubis is a great one. But I don't think I didn't get Anubis till much late or end game. Jackal is one that we are going to borrow from here or talk about because his basic hits 3 times, puts speed down, and does potential divinity steal and turn meter steal. So Jackal is an absolute common, and he is one of the potential heroes that we can show you can use for a team. And then talks about having a protect or support hero. Shishi is a good option, or some kind of a healer, like Isolde puts up a defensive buff, things like that. Basically, initiative down and speed down control the boss until you're able to defeat him, okay? And then they have the ally attack with the Ame no Nuoko weapon. You want to slow divinity accumulation by using this divinity stealing weapon and ally attack, bringing a lot of people in to steal a lot of divinity every time and keeping him from ever getting his ultimate, which then means he never can nuke you and win, and you'll get him down to 1. And then ultimately you'll just have to let him use his ultimate so that he will not kill you and the fight will be over, but you can hold out as long as you want, build the bounty counter as high as you'd like to. I saw somebody with a bounty counter in the Discord of over 2,200, and I thought my 200 was pretty awesome. But once you have him at 1% and he can't use his ultimate, you can just hold him there like against the fence, against the cage, almost UFC style, and just tee him up for money, tee him up for coin. Where's my money, man? Where's my money? Like that. And so that does work. But again, I don't know that you're going to have all the pieces of this. So that's why my strategy is a little different. Okay, so we've decided that his ultimate ability nuke is his center of gravity. That this critical vulnerability, kind of like in Star Wars, like there was a 2x2 space we didn't close up. Like that's your critical vulnerability, Well, his is if you defeat 99% of his HP before he gets his ultimate, either by holding his ultimate back by stealing divinity or by just beating him, senseless really fast through ally attacks and things like that. You want to think no disables, low ultimate use, have vanish on just because it doubles your bounty count and makes it easier to get more coin for your effort. And then offset any divinity gain that you produce when attacking him by divinity stealing effects, so that he doesn't, your attacks on him or your bleeds proccing don't ramp up his ultimate all the time and he just keeps killing through you. That's the thing you're trying to keep from happening. Okay, so our secondary plan, if our primary plan proves to be unsuccessful, is that we build a high-res team or use debuff disable strips or stuff like that. But I'd rather have a high-res team that just resists and blocks it than I would trying to strip off and get 100% strip. We want to block that stun. We want to block that speed down so that we block his divinity gain. We want to steal divinity and turn meter on that first try through, and then as we're farming later, we want to take out divinity meter, or turn meter steal. Sorry, we want to take out turn meter steal because it gives him divinity, so it will make it harder for us to steal enough divinity. We want to place bleeds for damage and bounty increase because you can stack to 10, whereas drain, acid, blaze, you can only stack so many. I don't know that I didn't use blaze a lot. I'm not gonna lie, I did not really find a use for blaze in the first try through, but I had Lady Zoc and I had bleeds going well, so I didn't really use acid or bleed or acid or blaze, or I did use drain because I had Green Knight. But you could go with those if you absolutely have nothing else. I'm going to show you a really easy bleed hero to get that I got in the first few levels. So, you should absolutely have them. And, in fact, have them awaken to 5 stars. So, we'll get on to this. So, this is my secondary team. You need a crazy fast speed lead. Just one out there with speed. Probably speed boots and speed legs. Just really setting that turn meter way out in front of him. You want to have, obviously, Vanish on you if you can. Kate Sith's Imprint could put Vanish on you for at least the first 2 turns. So if you have a Kate Sith is one of the ones we may actually use, too. Jackal and Kate Sith are sort of the 2 that I'm interchanging. But looking at Kate Sith, attacks one enemy 3 times with a 25, I think it's scrolled up to 45 or 50% chance to put vulnerable, and that increases damage dealt by debuffs by 20%. So now your bleeds do 20% more damage. That's extremely powerful, so that's why this will be one of our heroes we're going to come across and talk through when we build out the team for accomplishing this mission. But you see here his imprint, or the Kate Sith's Imprint at the start of the round, place Vanish on the hero for 1 turn. The hero has a 10% increase to attack and accuracy, so that also helps you with those thresholds you're trying to get over, for accuracy to land the bleeds, for speed to stay in front, attack, all of those things you're trying to build up. This is a very good hero for that, but you could also simply use the Imprint from Kate Sith on your weapons, on your heroes, and it would put Vanish on everyone for 2 rounds. So that's one thing you could use. Joint attack helps, right? So let's say you don't have a joint attacker. One other way to do it, sort of a really budget option, is to take Dagonette's Imprint and put it on weapons, because Dagonet's imprint gives you a 15% chance to join an ally in attacking if the target is below 50% HP. Well, Golden Guardian, we get him down to 1%, and then we could do a lot of damage to him, so this actually could work really well. Now, it's only 15%, so I know it's low, but if you put it on a few team members and you could get some ally attacks going, it would definitely help with Turn Meter, Divinity Steal, and building that attack up so that you get him below 1%. Before, once he's under 50, this starts working, and hopefully could bring him all the way down to 1% before the ultimate gain is there and he can wipe you all out. So that is another imprint that we're calling out that could possibly be useful. Shishi's imprint might be as well, because it's a heal capacity. When an enemy attempts to put a debuff on you, Golden Guardian wants to put debuffs on you, you have a 30% chance to heal by 3% of your max HP. So if you're building a high HP, high res team, you're going to heal a lot. So Shishi's imprint also seemed like it could be a really powerful one. And then lastly, Bauk, his imprint has a 25% chance to counterattack when they receive a debuff or a disable. That could also be powerful as well. So you could mix in all of these or multiple of them if you get tons of copies of these heroes early on in the first 60 levels. But they're heroes you should be able to get, and should be able to get in enough quantity to extract their imprints and get another one and not be stressed about using it. So Bauk, Kate Sith, Dagonet, Shishi, and then Scotty also has a really interesting one. But if you get Scotty, I doubt you're going to be pulling her imprint to use it on your team. You're probably going to be using Scotty in your team. So, but hers is when attacking enemies under freeze, which skips your turn, the enemy's turn, and in comes. Now it is a disable, so it's going to give divinity to Golden Guardian. When you put a freeze on, he's going to get divinity. So that's the only downside, but she also reduces the target's divinity by 5% on her imprint, 10% on her passive. So while she's giving him, I think it's a 30% boost, or a Guardian Divinity by 30, not 30%, but just 30. He gets 30 divinity when a disable's put on him, and she takes 10% of his divinity back. So that's a nice trade. I will take 10% for 30 divinity, because I'm sure if his ultimate goal is 1,000, then we're taking 100 at 10%. 30 is less. See, we're gonna do better. And I'm sure his ultimate goal is not under 1,000, because most rares have an ultimate cost of 1,000. So I will take her freeze over the divinity gain that it gives him, because it offsets. So she would be one I will show you will be absolutely on our team. But if you do have, like, say, imprints from her, that could be a way to go as well. All right, and then what will we be testing in the next round? Okay, so we'll talk about that. Our perfect team that we put out, I think the absolute perfect speed lead is either Aphrodite. She has a 20% speed in all battles. She puts speed up, initiative up. We'll talk more about her. I think she would be a perfect starter, or like first lead. Or Quetzalcoatl also has a 21% speed in all battles, and if you can just not use the Petrify or apply the Aminono weapon on Quetzalcoatl so that the Divinity Steal offsets the use of Petrify, that's powerful. Speed up 2, attack up, sharpen up for crit damage, accuracy up, all things that makes it really easy to keep your team, like get your team from 100 HP down to 1 HP real quick before Golden Guardian has that ultimate. And then when this hero is defeated, revives all allies. I used this imprint on Drac. It didn't work on the first wave, but I think imprints will work better on the second wave. And so that's also a nice thing as a protective measure too. If Golden Guardian comes through and swipes and kills you, or kills her, Quetzalcoatl, then everyone else is revived. So you have someone alive, it kills the Golden Guardian. So that is my perfect sort of speed lead. Either Aphrodite or Quetzalcoatl. I would say maybe even Quetzalcoatl gets a little bit of a bump there. And then we would use Sphinx, because Sphinx puts Vanish out on the whole team except for herself. And you can put her in Spectre gear, 4-piece Spectre gear, and she'll have a 2-turn Vanish on her as well. But she is another one that I would say is in the perfect team. Puts res up. Has a res leader bonus if you want to go that way. If you have enough speed built on your team and you don't need the speed lead, you can put her in the lead position and get the res and help block any of the debuffs, and that works out tremendously. She reduces his attack capabilities, obviously makes him hit less hard, and he's hitting hard, so that's valuable. And then destroys HP. Destroys 5% of HP and the divinity cost. Now, divinity cost, we remembered that these features don't work on him. That's part of his immunity. But the destroy HP does, and it stacks up 10 times. So Sphinx is a very powerful hero when it comes to the Golden Guardian, especially at level 120. Kind of a must-have to really max out your run, I would say. So that's Sphinx. So you've got basically Quetzalcoatl, Sphinx, and then the next one in our perfect team. This is like if I could just choose the heroes and build my team, I would have Shamash, because Shamash has he revives allies, which is helpful as well. So if everybody, if someone's killed by the Golden Guardian, he'll revive them, keep you going. He's also putting up a barrier. Now, that doesn't work for his ultimate, but it keeps you alive in the meantime. And he has a join attack, so that's super helpful as well on his core. And that helps place a lot more bleeds and get a lot more divinity steal. Okay, so if they all had the Aminono weapons on them, all 5 of them, then every time Smash would bring them all in, they would take 5 or 10% divinity away, and it would just keep Golden Guardian from ever getting his ultimate. So that would be the next one, would be Shamash in our perfect team. And then we would go with Zeus, another ally attacker, but his ally attack is on his ultimate, and that means that he's only going to get it as his divinity reaches a certain point, but it will bring everyone in again on an ally attack, and he hits very hard, and he does a lot of hits. His basic, he just keeps getting extra chances for extra turn and extra hits, so he is extremely powerful against the Golden Guardian, where the number of hits you do is impactful to the bounty, and as long as you can survive or steal the divinity, then you want as many hits as you can get. So Zeus, it would be another member of our perfect team. And last but not least, a member we used was Achilles. Achilles has a triple hit on his, or a hit on his basic that has a chance to place 3 stacks of bleed, which is the most out of any hero we had in the alpha. He puts attack up and sharpen on himself, so he does more damage, and then he strips all the bleeds and does damage. And he also, when he dies, when damage is inflicted, increases by 10% for each stack of bleed removed, and then he keeps doing more damage. He keeps ramping up to a total of 50 times if he attacks with his core while under bleed, while the enemy is under bleed. So as long as he lands the first bleed and it stays on the Golden Guardian, he just keeps ramping up his attack, and as long as you're still able to keep the Golden Guardian's divinity down, it's no problem. He doesn't need to be protected. We are just taking, soft hits, and our barriers from Shamash will protect and or will revive, and Sphinx puts vanish, so he's not able to hit anybody but Sphinx. So and Sphinx also has immortal, so she goes down to 1 HP just like him and can't be killed. So that's super powerful as well to helping you beat it. But this is your perfect team, I would say. I don't think most people are going to have this on their at level 59 going into 60, but this is what I would call our perfect team. Now, who is your team, or who is my team that I'm going to try to get through, all right? Well, I got Aphrodite at level 30, okay? And I think that's fairly, I think she's one of a pool of maybe 3 or 5 Legos at level 30. When you beat Fafnir the first time, you can get one of these. And so I think it's safe to say that you could either farm 30 or you could get Aphrodite. I believe that's fairly safe to say. I don't think I'm steering you wrong on that. So you have Aphrodite in that lead spot. She's giving you that speed bonus, okay? Making it a little easier on your stats to stay ahead of them. Maybe you don't even need to put much speed on, maybe just legs. And then you can put initiative on boots, initiative on helmet, and make them tanky, or put accuracy on the gauntlets and the helmet, depending on what they need to do. So we'll talk about that. But for her, she needs initiative on her helmet, and she needs initiative on her boots, and she needs speed on her legs, and then as much speed substat, and then everything else is HP. Everything else is just have her tanky, and she was the reason I made it through my first run. You'll see she survived when everyone else died because of her HP buildup, okay? So she puts speed up 2 and initiative up 2 on an ally, and then when she uses her basic, anyone under speed up 2 or initiative up 2 comes in on an ally attack. Super powerful for this boss for maxing hits and to steal divinity. She puts she's pushing at least your speed and your initiative ahead, so it's like you either can be ahead of him or you can reduce him or you could do both, you know. And so she is like get ahead of him kind of thing. Very powerful for that. She extends buffs, extends the speed up, extends the initiative up. Its turn meter and divinity increases are doubled if they're under it. So it just keeps. I'm sure this one will change a little bit in the next wave because it was broken. It was broken good, but it was broken a little bit. So I'm sure it'll get kind of moved. Something will get changed. Maybe they'll take out the extension of the duration of the buffs or something like that, just so it doesn't break it. But I'm sure it'll change a little bit, but I still think the core of her will be good and will be perfect for this first role. So that is our lead, is Aphrodite. She's the only real, she's the only Lego on the team, and she's the only real one that I think you have to maybe farm a little bit to get her, go back to 30, farm to get her. But then from there on out, we're going to go below epic. So it's rares and below only, okay? We mentioned Jackal, okay? Jackal and Kate Sith are in my position here, number 2, and we're going to test which one works better. I'm going to build them all, both of them out and test them, okay? So the Jackal, even though it's a common, attacks one enemy 3 times, and if the target is under speed down, decreases their turn meter by 5%. Now that is going to give divinity to the Golden Guardian, but like I said, we're trying on this first run to use turn meter to get by. So he only has his basic and his ultimate, which I kind of like. He's like simple. You're only going to use this or that, and he needs obviously his ultimate, but Aphrodite pumps everyone's ultimates fast. So he's going to be able to place attack up on himself and then attack everyone and have a 50 to probably 75% chance to place speed down on the target for 1 turn. Okay, so he gains divinity when damaging an enemy. He can get himself, you build him with high speed, high initiative, and then tanky the rest of the way. Also, he needs accuracy enough to land that speed down, but that will help give you that speed down that we mentioned was valuable when we were looking at Scrolls of Anubis and his strategy. So Jackal is one way we could go. The other way is Kate Sith, as I mentioned. Kate Sith's got a very interesting kit for this fight. Attacks the enemy one enemy 3 times, just like Jackal. Has a 25 up to 45, 50% chance to place vulnerable, which is going to make all the debuffs, all the bleeds count for 20% more damage, which is great. 50% chance up to probably 75% chance to decrease the target's turn meter by 20%. Places Vanish on this hero for 2 turns. So that is extremely powerful in this fight. Then the ultimate, attack all enemies. Each hit does, I think, 60% chance for speed down and blunt 1. So does more than Jackal, obviously being a rare versus, but let's say you don't get Kate Sith. I did get a lot of them, so I think you should. So Jackal or Kate Sith being kind of the advantage here, would be my number 2 in this team. And you see why there. Putting Vanish, Vulnerable, Speed down 1, Blunt 1. You'll want to build enough accuracy to land that, and then speed, initiative, and all HP to ensure that the kitty cat survives. Okay, then we want to go with a hero I got in the first 5 levels, okay? Spartan. I think I got a Spartan on my first level almost. But I had enough to 5-star awaken Spartan very quickly, and you should probably too. Spartan is a tank, okay? Hoplite is, if Hoplite's on the same team, increases damage inflicted by 30%, okay? Does HP and attacks, the brawler, so you have to be careful for, you want to build enough resistance, but he puts resistance up on himself, so that's nice. Okay, so you build a max HP, build a lot of HP, build a little res, and then enough speed to stay out in front of Golden Guardian, and he will bring in Hoplite on a join attack every time he uses his ultimate. Okay, so that is a powerful thing, and we're going to leverage it by using Hoplite, and Hoplite gives a bleed on his basic, so it's going to bring in the potential for bleed every single time. Okay, so that is Spartan. We're going to build him very tanky with good res, and then speed and initiative to stay out ahead, and then we're going to build a Hoplite for the bleed. Hoplite is a common, and you could tell the difference between Spartan and Hoplite by Hoplite has like like a lighter shine to his armor. They are kind of tough to tell apart sometimes, but Hoplite attacks an enemy, now only has a 10%, I think it scrolls up to 30% chance to place a bleed, but he's going to be coming in every time that Spartan uses his ultimate, and Aphrodite is going to be pumping divinity, so Spartan can use his ultimate fairly frequently, and this is sort of the budget option for the Achilles bleed team that I built and used. Attacks an enemy, he also heals by 30% of the damage from the attack. So this is really powerful for keeping him alive. So Hoplite's a tank, or Spartan's a tank. Hoplite has got enough accuracy to land the bleed, and then he's got some attack, speed, initiative, and you don't really worry too much about making him tanky because he's healing from the hits, so you just want to make him hit as hard as possible. And knowing he might die, and that's okay, because he's going to do his job until that ends, and then you're going to, hopefully have either Aphrodite or Spartan be your last man standing and survive and beat him. Okay, so that's Hoplite. Last member of the team, this one's a little bit more if you could get him. Okay, so Scotty would be a really interesting option here if you could get her. I didn't get Scotty this early, so I don't want to say that you just can't. You can. Maybe she's a rare, so she might drop from one of the areas, but I didn't get her till later on. But all of her freezes help to reduce turn meter, and like I said, even though that gives him divinity, if you have divinity steal being there to offset, and if her passive is doing what it's supposed to by taking divinity every time she puts freeze, then she's going to be taking more divinity than she's giving, and it's okay to use her in this case. So Scotty would be a really good use. Now let's say you don't get Scotty. I didn't have Scotty my first time I went through level 60. Here is one I did have. Wasn't working super great at this time, so I didn't use him a lot. But Shinigami looks like a really powerful hero as a rare for this role. I'll show you why. Hits the enemy 2 times. Each one has 40 up to 60% chance to destroy max HP by 5% of the damage inflicted. Okay, so this can get powerful. And we've seen that it's used on one of the heroes, Sphinx, that is like perfectly designed for Golden Guardian. So it made me look for other max HP heroes. Then his core attacks all enemies. Who cares? It's one enemy. So 2 times. Each hit has a 50 up to, I believe, 75% chance to place defense down 1. When I used Dagonet in my first run through at level 60 to put defense down on, it was very powerful, and I might have been the reason I was able to beat it. I haven't tried a million different options, so I don't want to say definitively, but it seemed like defense down made a big difference. So having him put it on his core is extremely powerful. If he has enough speed and he's getting through to his core often, you don't really need a ton of speed. He only needs to put it up every so many times, but that will help tremendously with that sort of rush to go from 100 HP down to 1. He also attacks with 75, I believe, up to 100% chance to place Curse, which reduces incoming healing and shield and barrier strength. Doesn't matter too much for Golden Guardian. And he puts Drain, which helps give you some heal back from your damage. Increases damage by 3% for each debuff, so obviously if you're putting a lot of bleeds with Hoplite, obviously you could trade out Hoplite for Lady Zoc, and she puts a few more bleeds or higher chances for bleeds, but she doesn't have the ally attack with Spartan, so that's why I went with, she could have it with Aphrodite, but at the same time, I would probably take Aphrodite, and I would use the ultimate attack first with Kate Sith, and work to put vulnerable and speed down, and then use Hoplite and Spartan's ally attack to basically put the bleeds on, and then put Aphrodite's next core onto either Scotty or Shinigami, and use that to keep defense down and to keep destroying max HP. I was hoping, I tried using this imprint right here on one of my weapons to kill the last 1% HP of the Golden Guardian. Didn't work. I didn't expect it to or want it to per se, but it didn't work. I tried that. So I don't think Shinigami will be able to hit through because Golden Guardian's skill or passive says that it decreases 100% of the damage when it gets to 1 HP. So I don't think you can sneak any damage through to kill off that last 1 HP. I don't think even with this passive or imprint, I don't think anything gets through to kill it. You have to just be able to survive its attack, and then it dies because it didn't kill you. So Shinigami is another one that I think would be really good, but obviously if you get Scotty and can build her up, she is a very powerful fifth member of this team. Okay, so your mission, 5 W's, right? Like, what is your mission? Defeat stage 60. Now, your secondary mission is defeat stage 60 in less than 50 turns and 2 rare heroes. Okay, so that's what we're going to be working on this time. We'll have Kate Sith, we'll have either Shinigami or Scotty, or we could potentially put in Lady Zoc, but I think I'm going to go with a different starter hero on this one. I might go Guan Yu or Ramses this time just for a different experience and see how Acid works or see how the Drain works for Guan Yu. So I'm probably going to go a different route, which is why I'm looking at a Hoplite versus just a Lady Zoc. Okay, so that's your team, that's your mission. Now, execution, okay? Concept of operations. This is how do you conduct the operation to achieve your mission? What is your scheme of maneuver, okay? And it starts with your order of march. You know, so we're going to want Aphrodite to be fast. We're going to want her to be able and have good initiative because she's going to put up her ultimate boosts everyone's speed and initiative, which is great. So you want to have the speed and ultimate booster boosted themselves. You want to have, like I said, the Jackal or Kate Sith be quick enough, but they're going to be brought into these attacks by Aphrodite. So their speed is a little bit less concerning. It's like they only need as much as they need. And it's a very low level. I think it might only be 115 or 120 speed at the most. Like, with the 20% speed boost in the lead, you almost don't need to put a ton of speed on. If you can get lucky with 1 or 2 sub-rolls of speed, that's all you'll need, and then the rest you can put towards accuracy if you need to land a debuff or a disable, and then initiative and HP, and just tanking up as hard and as much as possible so that you survive, or at least Aphrodite or Aphrodite or Spartan will survive the Golden Guardian's onslaught, and you will get the reward. All right, tasks. We are going to task Aphrodite with her joint attacks. We are going to watch for the damage output threshold. For our time through, as we went through, I'll show you the run in the back. It was about a 500,000 damage threshold that we did. We did just above 500,000 damage to beat the Golden Guardian here. So you'll see we had Gilgamesh, Achilles, Dagonet, Aphrodite, and Lady Zoc. We're putting bleeds. We're putting defense down there for 2 turns, you can see. And we're just racing as you see the divinity is real low on the left. We don't see a lot of divinity gain, but there was decent turn meter gain by the Golden Guardian. I didn't try to take any turn meter at all. I just read it as don't use turn meter when I first went through it. So I didn't really take turn meter from him, and you'll see he gets turns, but his divinity is really not growing very fast. It should grow for every single time I'm hitting him, but I'm offsetting a lot of his divinity too, and so that's why you see the divinity meter up here is barely getting to 50%, even though he's had a couple turns, and he's supposedly getting divinity every time that we are attacking him and he takes a damaging hit. But you notice no debuffs for us down at the bottom when we have we lost Achilles, and I think we don't make it through this run. I'm not sure if this is the one we didn't make it through. But regardless, you'll get to see it as a benefit too, because we're racing. Yes, we didn't make it through this one. So you saw Gilgamesh going crazy, trying to get him down to 1% HP, and we weren't able to do it in time. But you can see we only did 120, 115. That's 235. Another 55 is 290, and then here, so it's a little over, we did a little over 300k, and we needed to be able to do about another 200,000k damage to defeat him. And so I was watching this and looking for how much, I'm sorry, we did another 166 down here with Gilgamesh, so we were at like 466, and we needed a little over 500, so we're about 50,000 damage away. Sorry, I had my silly overlay in here in the way. So we're only about 50,000 damage away from getting him down from 100 down to 1% on that first try, and that's what we were working on. Was we'd go back and farm and build the stats or build the levels. You see these guys are only at level 37. She's trying to get to 40. She wasn't ascended at all. That was so hard to get eternal ascension stones, but You see, Lady Zoc was, and I had 3 copies of her at that time, so she was awakened to level 3. So I only had gotten 1 copy of Achilles, an imprint for him, so he was awakened 1 level, but no one else was awakened. Ascensions were whatever I had. And Gilgamesh only had 1 imprint too. He had 1 awakening. I got an imprint for him, but he wasn't ascended because he was eternal. We had a lot of eternal heroes that needed ascension stones, and you just couldn't seem to farm them fast enough. But I'm sure that'll be something that'll be updated in the next wave. I'm not worried too much about it. But this was our first run through. You see 49 turns, 3 minutes, 48 seconds. So I kind of kept going, and basically we kept grinding and building up our heroes, and finally we got to beat it here in the very next one. So I'll show you this as a finale. We'll show you sort of the winning run through. I just got to jump on up to it. Sorry about that. It wasn't until the next bit that we came in and defeated... Oh, yeah, we went by it. All right, so we'll just start it here and let it run. But you can see we have Lady Zoc, Dagonet, Achilles, Gilgamesh, and Aphrodite. So the same team, nothing changed there. You see Vanish on Dagonet. That's Kate Sith's imprint working on his weapon. You see Speed Up on Aphrodite because she put Speed Up on others. So then she also puts it up on herself after doing this. And so we really work to build their speeds, to build their accuracy, and to build their HP. And so you see him hit there. Did some good damage. You see he hits. He hits very hard, but Aphrodite took the least of it because she has the highest probably HP out of everyone. And we still have not received any debuffs, which is powerful. So our resistance, even though we didn't put a ton of resistance, what resistance we did put on was enough to keep the debuffs off of us, which would really let him build his initiative and win much quicker. We're going to set this to 1.5 speed just so that it goes a little quicker, or maybe we'll go to 2 times speed. Just all right. Oh, there we go. We'll do 2 times speed so you can see it go real quick. So Dagonet did get a debuff there, you can see. So it wasn't like we had perfect res, but here we look like we're really getting a hold of his turn meter. And he's no longer getting his turns quite as fast, and we're just really piling it up. But we're racing to get here, basically get this all the way to here before this gets to here. That's the race. And if he gets his ultimate before, with any amount of HP above 1%, you're all dead. Like, there's nothing to save you. We're just racing to get him down. And basically what I was able to do was get Gilgamesh, who's a brawler with HP, and Aphrodite, who had HP. Aphrodite wound up being the one that beat it with just a tiny little bit of HP left. She was able to survive, and we got Mjolnir, which is super powerful for her. It gives you 250 initial divinity, and we had gotten 2 of them, so we were up to level 20, so it was like 300 or 350 initial divinity. She had her ultimate constantly, Aphrodite did, and it was super powerful. So that was one of the rewards from it, but we did also, if you look, we did over 500 million damage on this one, and that was what we needed to fully get him down. We just barely did it, really. We like eked over this threshold, I would say, really just kind of continuing to go back, build stuff up just little by little, test, try it again, just finding the point where we could get past it so we could tell you just what you need to do to get past it. Like, oh, you don't have to build everyone to level 60 and take 6 of the 10 days to get past level 60. You know, you can do it this way. And you see we got Shamash's imprint, but we never got Shamash, so that was kind of like la-di-da. But you could put it on somebody's weapon, and it gave a increased damage for ally attacks or joint attacks or something like that. You get energy every time you beat certain thresholds. You get energy to kind of keep pushing forward. But this was our team. And then this one coming up, I'm definitely going to try the Aphrodite. I'm going to get her again. Kate Sith, Spartan, Hoplite, Shinigami team is kind of where I'm at right now. I also want to look at some of these weapons because Ami no is really not available for farming before level 60. Okay, like I said, it was level 120. That's where I got it. Some weapons that you could use, though, and we will go back to our websites for the weapons. This is ravenpyros.com. We'll go to our weapons and we'll show you some. Obviously, this one here, Ami no Nuoko, steals 5% divinity, and that's not like built up. I think it goes up 10, 15, almost 20% divinity when it's fully at like 60, level 60. So if you had those on 5 teammates, then that's 100% divinity being stolen every time everyone goes. So they'll never get their ultimate. They'll never build their ultimate fast enough to offset that. So that was the idea of sort of the initial design for Fafnir and for the Golden Guardian, was to control their divinity with this weapon. But you're not going to have that weapon. So you might have a battle axe that increases strong hits by 10%. Okay. You might have a Doru, increases your core ability damage by 3%. Okay, maybe that might not be terrible. Kopesh is not bad, though. Ignore 10% of the enemy's resistance. If you're having a hard time building enough accuracy on your Hoplite or your Kate Sith or your Shinigami, giving them the Kopesh weapon ignores res, basically like built-in accuracy. Be great if it had accuracy here on this stat, but it only has attack, so for Shinigami that still works fine. Longbow, increase the damage of ultimate abilities by 3%. Yeah, you could use that, and it gives you accuracy. So maybe Shinigami or Hoplite could have the longbow. Naginata. Attacks have a 5% chance to activate a random damaging debuff. So bleeds, if you have a bleed on him and you attack, you have a 5%, and that goes up to, I think, 10, 15, 20% as you fully max out the weapon, chance to activate the bleeds on him. Every time you activate the bleed, it counts as a damaging hit. The bounty goes up, so you're just doing more hits, almost like a built-in joint attack. Kyong increases damage inflicted when counterattacking. We don't really have a counterattack mechanism built into our team, so that's not really useful. Shamshir, gain 10% turn meter after using your ultimate ability. This one I used, and it can be very useful to keep yourself ahead of him. And then Shepherd's Axe, absorb 4% of the damage that the ally with the lowest HP receives. So this is an interesting one if you have someone like Sphinx who has that immortal and goes down to 1 HP and can't take any more damage. If you put the Shepherd's Axe on someone like Sphinx and they absorb more of the damage from somebody who doesn't have the setup to absorb it, that could be powerful. Again, I didn't think you were going to have a Sphinx, and I didn't really have Shishi or maybe like Nemean Lion with Ward, but none of those really block the Golden Guardian's damage if he uses his ultimate. So it didn't make a lot of sense to try to build out like a intercept or a diversion type tank. But you would definitely want to use probably the Shepherd's Axe if you did. Topoli, increase basic ability by 3%. Kind of like, okay, that's fine. Tierfing grants 20 divinity when placing Blaze. So if you go with a Blaze team and you equip with Tierfing, you can give yourself divinity. Kind of like not as good, but maybe a second way it could work. Savnaya, gain turn meter when attacked. We don't really want that because we don't want him attacking us that much, but it's not terrible to gain turn meter when you get hit if you survive. Sharur, increased damage inflicted when joining attacks. So if you have like that perfect team and you join attack, this is a way to really max out your damage. Samune I used because it increases damage inflicted by a certain percent when attacking under bleed. So that was nice because I was using the bleed one. Makahutal I got later on and put on Lady Zoc actually, and it increases the first attack ability each wave, which helped me with wave clearing. Heka is not bad because we're building high HP heroes, so gaining 5% of current HP is attack, and it gives you accuracy. This could be a really interesting one for Spartan or something like that. Harpy decreases 1% attack on target each time an ultimate is used, only up to 3 times, so that one was interesting, but it didn't seem as impactful because it only really took down their attack by 3%, which was like, it's a lot for, he has a lot of attack, but it's like not that impactful enough for it to be your weapon, I'd say. And then damage received from attacks is reduced from 5% while under no debuff. So if you have a high res team and you're putting Galantines on everybody, they're taking 5, 10, 15, maybe 20% less damage. That can help you survive as well. Those are the rares and the epics that I think maybe you could farm and get ahead of 60. I didn't include any legendary weapons because I just didn't think you were going to see them before this level. Okay, so that's the weapons. We talked about that. And then ascension bonuses, okay? You can totally try to ascend Jackal, Kate Sith, Spartan, Hoplite, Shinigami. Those all are probably easy enough to ascend with ascension stones. But Aphrodite was hard to ascend with ascension stones, and I had her from like level 30 on, and I still didn't get ascensions on her for very much. So that can be hard to do. Scotty as well, because she's eternal, and the eternal ascension stones are the hardest to come by. So if you don't get them, I wouldn't worry about it. Awakenings, as you can see, I have one awakening, and then Lady Zoc has 3 awakenings. I would try to get awakenings for Jackal or Kate Sith because they're pretty easy heroes to farm and get in the early levels. Spartan, Hoplite, Shinigami, I'd just try to awaken them all to level 5, get like 5 other copies of them, because I think you want to put everything in your corner if you are trying to do sort of a budget level 60 team. Now, if you get all the pieces to go with a bigger team, all for you, like, do it. But this is like, if you're just trying to get by, like, what can you do? Go farm a few of these heroes, get them up to ascension level or awakening level 5, put your best gear on them just for this fight, and then put them kind of back to the side as you go back to your wave clearing. That's the way I see this team helping you out. All right, last, command and signal. These were all of our admin and logistics things from our Frago. But command and signal, chain of command, you are our only hope. You are our last hope, so we have to defeat it. We cannot quit. We cannot give up. And we showed you the rewards, Mjolnir weapons, Smash imprint, almost 50,000 coin, 300 energy, 20,000 XP, and the possibility for a 1, 2, or 3-star spirit to help you promote and raise your heroes. So that is our level 60 Golden Guardian briefing on how you should attempt to beat this boss, what heroes can help you, what weapons can help you. So gear, I'm going to keep it pretty straightforward. Aphrodite had a lot of eagle gear on, so her initiative was up. Falcon gear, so the speed was up. It wasn't really that crazy because it was only the first 60 levels, so I didn't have all these other sets of gear. So it was about initiative, accuracy, and speed, and then HP, and making sure I had enough to survive with at least one hero. Like I said, Gilgamesh didn't make it all the way to the end, but Aphrodite could. And you see the healing numbers too, so you can build in like how they can heal from their damage and things that can help. But you want to look at how do I keep one of them alive. And for Aphrodite, I just built an HP chest on her, and I built I built HP up on her enough to where she survived. And we had to do, like I said, 500,000 damage to get him from 100 down to 1% before he used his ultimate and cleaned us out, or before he used his core enough to just beat us, and basic just to beat us. But you see, he wasn't landing debuffs, so that means our res was good, and we were ahead of him, so our speed was good. All right, everybody. Well, that is all for us today. We are going to wrap up with this Golden Guardian level 60 briefing, something to help you if you're stuck at this level and you're trying to push deeper into the Wave 2 testing. That is going to be starting on Wednesday, a couple days from now. Thanks for tuning in all the way. Take care of yourself, and remember, play smarter.